Waiting for your feedback so I can start my show. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mooncast. How are you today? I feel pretty good today, actually. Hey. It's about 10 a.m. Vietnam time, and I feel good. I've been very busy lately, but generally speaking, I feel pretty good. Hi. My stream today is gonna be a fun stream, and we're gonna have a good laugh at liberals. Generally speaking, to give you some context, generally speaking, so you know that a bunch of reactionaries, Vietnamese reactionaries, anti-communist, Vietnamese liberals, they've been very active lately for a long time, for decades. And this is a thing that this annoys Vietnamese communists a lot. So and here's I will show you what just happened in Vietnam. It's pretty funny. I have to say it's pretty fucking funny. Yes. let's rock some liberals today, especially liberals in Vietnam. That's very annoying. Let me share you this screen. And Memos in the chat, yes, you're right. We're gonna have two things today. The first thing is gonna be about this. All right. So here, share it. All right. So a few days ago, you know what? There are many the one of the three most famous kind of the neoliberals news, not just in Vietnam but in the world. They are BBC News, Radio Free Asia, and The Voice of America. And all three of them have the Vietnamese official Vietnamese Facebook pages. For them, it's ridiculous, and they have me too millions of people likes it, and then something like that is lots and lots of subscribers, and like people like their page. And about a few days ago, somebody, right after the moment that Facebook announced that they would change the name from Facebook to Meta, right on that same kind of day or something like that, the three pages of BBC, RFA, and VOA, their names were changed. And the funny thing is, the BBC now named the great president Ho Chi Minh, Chủ tịch Hồ Chí Minh vĩ đại. Yeah! This is real, okay? I'm saying this is real. This is not fake at all. This is fucking real, alright? So BBC was changed into the great president Ho Chi Minh. RFA, Radio Free Asia, got changed into the Long Live the Communist Party of Vietnam. Đảng Cộng sản Việt Nam vĩ đại. Đảng Cộng sản Việt Nam muôn năm. So yes, the Long Live the Communist Party of Vietnam. And the last one, the Voice of America, was changed into Đông Lào muôn năm. It's just Long Live the East of Laos. So Vietnamese, we usually refer us to the east of Laos, our brother Laos. We are the east of Laos, and then it's kind of a funny name to call ourselves when we are in the sassy mode. We want to roast some fucking liberals and to roast some anti-communists, and we call ourselves okay, we're not Vietnam anymore. We are fucking the east of Laos, right? And the funny thing is that in China, they do the same thing. I just found out a Chinese comrade told me that. In China, they also refer themselves to be the West of Korea. China is aka the West of Korea, or the 5-star Vietnam. So in their flag, they have a 5 stars, right? And we have a 1 star. And then China, they refer themselves to 5-star Vietnam. So it's kind of funny like that. So yep. we don't know who. We don't know who did it. And after like a few hours or something like that, their names got like changed back into the normal names right now. So now if you check the pages, you still see the old names bad. But if you see the activity history, the activity log, you will see it. You will see that their names got changed into the Great President Ho Chi Minh or Long Live the Communist Party of Vietnam. So yeah, Islam is supposed to be more aggressive than Vietnam. I think yes, like when we want to be sassy, we want to be like, like want to debunk a bunch of those anti like communist reactionary something like that. So we be like, the tanky mode here that is allowed. Yes. So yeah, so that's the first thing. That's the first good laugh I want to show to you. So this is it. This is our because there's a thing in Vietnam we call it like the keyboard heroes. I do you have the same kind of expression in your country? Like those people like super online, but like again, keyboard heroes. This is like the real life like example of keyboard heroes. Like I don't know, somewhere some communist hackers just change the name. In English you also have keyboard warriors. All right, keyboard warriors. Yeah, in Vietnamese is keyboard heroes. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. We feel the poor. See here. I see. Wonderful job as always, and your C-Bucks for our dear Ho Chi Minh is based, and don't let any Western POS tell you otherwise. Thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate your C-Bucks. Yes, this is my C-Bucks now. These are our C-Bucks now. So you know that like it's ridiculous that yes, even BBC, Radio Free Asia, and Voice of America, they all have a Facebook pages in Vietnamese run by, of course, Vietnamese reactionaries. It is how to tell you like how strong they are in Vietnam, and because we Vietnamese people, we are super active on Facebook. You know that it is a fact that about like 50% of customers in Asia that using Facebook, they are Vietnamese. So like we are a huge market for Facebook. That is why Mark Zuckerberg a while ago just like signed something agreement with the Vietnamese government to try to crack down and try to stop those reactionary sites like this. So yeah, it's disgusting that they are very powerful and they spend a lot of money on their fan pages in Vietnamese. So try to fool our own people and try to, you know what I'm talking about, right? It's disgusting. So again, we hated it. And usually in Vietnamese, when we talk about like the BBC, we translate it into BBC is báo bồn cầu. It also means means the toilet newspapers. So that's how like we Vietnamese communists, we freaking hate those neoliberal newspapers. Right now, okay, about the second laugh. Second laugh. So you know that like if you still can remember, I think that many of you read this already. So about a few days ago, some newspaper from Western media outlets, absolutely, they had some article about how North Korea is encouraging people to eat black swans to deal with like starvation, something like that, and yeah, I read that article. It was totally laughable. And VN Express, let me show you this. Stop screen and then now share the new one with this. This. So here, VN Express is a Vietnamese newspaper, all right, and it is absolutely to serve like liberals and neoliberal purposes. So they translated that article from Western media outlet about how North Korean government encourage people to eat black swan to deal with starvation and hungry, something like that. It's totally laughable. And they translate it into Vietnamese. The VN Express is really famous. I have a really famous Vietnamese news. And lots of quote unquote expats, they usually cite this source as like a genuine source about Vietnam when they kind of try to debunk Vietnam, you know, and we usually ask like, hey, where's your source? And they usually link to this VN Express. And they thought that this is state-owned media or something. And no, it's not. Actually, it's just fucking like, it's like a tabloid now in Vietnam. Absolutely. So they translated this ridiculous article from the Western media outlets to talk about this. It is so ridiculous that even the temporary ambassador of North Korea in Vietnam had to make a Facebook post about this. All right. So it turned out the true story is like this. All right. Again, I would set up story again. Western media and also this Vietnamese site translate from the same article saying that North Korean government is encouraging its people to eat black swan to deal with starvation. But the fact is, North Korea, they just had a new like big like black swan like farm, all right? And they made like a big like new dish out of swans, all right? And then they just like encourage everybody to go try it. It's not because of starvation, for F's sake. Oh my gosh, it's just like, hey, this is a new dish, maybe you should try this. And then they kind of make like advertisement or something like that, all right? And it's just so ridiculous that Jung Jin-chuk is like, he's a temporary ambassador of North Korea in Vietnam, had to make a Facebook post about this. So ridiculous is that. All right, about like how he's just saying, literally saying like in North Korea, we just had like a brand new open kind of black swan farm, and like ducks, like swans and ducks like that. And then like they said like we can just both like use have swans as like pets, or you can also eat it because it's very nutritious. And anyway, and that's just it. From that single piece of information about the advertisement of that swan farm, Western media outlets just totally translated like, oh, North Korea is so desperate right now that they had to like encourage people to eat black swans, like, and lots of people believed in it. All right, it's ridiculous. It's freaking laughable at this point. So after this post from the ambassador of North Korea in Vietnam, there's a lot of like Vietnamese Facebook like communist page, such as this is one of the very famous one, Bão Lửa, means like the firestorm. This is a very famous communist Facebook group in Vietnam with like 75 or 80,000 followers, something like that, and they made a post about this. Let's see the translation. Yeah, this is say like how ridiculous it is. And you know what, like thousands of Vietnamese, they laugh so hard at this kind of news. They laughed so hard they went to the fan page of VN Express and attacked them, you know, and they went to the Facebook page of that ambassador to show the solidarity and laugh at VN Express and Western media for showing that. Like thousands of comments like this. And remember, this is just one of the many Facebook pages, communist Facebook pages in Vietnam that talk about this. So like lots and lots of Vietnamese people, especially Vietnamese communists, laugh so hard at this. And we like had like a total, like a whole, like, you know, like cyber attacks on that VN Express to try to force them to change the name of the article, try to change it, and it worked. So about maybe yesterday or 2 days ago, something like that, VN Express did change the article, and now the article, the name of the article is like, North Korea encourages people to try black swan's meat. That's it. They changed the name. They delete the word starvation. Blah blah blah. So it did. It worked. Yes, Bão Lửa is a very good and funny kind of page, you know. Yeah. Just yeah, go check it out. It's so yep. So even Vietnamese people, we are so freaking done with this liberal media. It's really ridiculous. And we are very active online. That's true. Super active, and we're mostly on Facebook. You don't see many of us on like like Twitter or Mastodon. No, we're not. Most of us, we are on Facebook. And the funny thing is that like there are so many of us on Facebook. Is that like we even like it's kind of collective kind of mindset to fight against those lies and distortion and misinformation about us. Is that like I remember about a few months ago when the Freedom House, they also has their own Facebook page, and they talk about something like Vietnam. There's no internet freedom in Vietnam at all. In Vietnamese, well, we are not allowed to use internet freely, something like that, blah blah blah. It was so ridiculous that their page was attacked by thousands of Vietnamese communists on Facebook. It was really funny, and how we had that happen is simple. Somebody, Vietnamese communist Facebooker, were wandering around, and then when they stumble into one of those like shitty posts like that or article like that, they will go to one of the communist kind of Facebook page and they post that in the comment or make a Facebook post, or just message to admins of that page, and then like, hey, I just saw this and we need to do something about it. So because of that, like we call like thousands of Vietnamese communist accounts to go freaking attack the Freedom House official fan of like Facebook page. The same thing happened with even the Facebook page of the embassy of the USA in Vietnam. We're not scared of anything. Thousands of us just go there and spams and comments and screenshots. It was so bad that many times they had to turn off the comment section. And when we cannot comment, we will send them like angry emoji. Take screenshot and post it on other Vietnamese Facebook pages. Yeah, it's really fun actually if you can find your like favorite communist Facebook page in Vietnam, because like we can like talk a lot about other stuff like that, and also at the same time we have fun together, and we talk a lot about like things been going on in the West too, in the Vietnamese perspective, such as like the thing that happened in Ukraine. When Ukraine just sold the technology of the T-80 tank to the USA with the price of $7 billion. We talk about that a lot. Yeah, that's one of the examples of how like we talk about that in the communist space, online space in Vietnam. And yeah, it links a little bit to what I'm talking about here. So like lots of Westerners living in Vietnam, specifically people calling themselves expats. By the way, I freaking hate this word expat. We are all just immigrants, all right? So why the fuck do they have to refer themselves as expats? Whenever I use the word expats, I'm insulting them, all right? So expats in Vietnam, well, they came to Vietnam, they live in Vietnam, and they know like a very small circle of Vietnamese people that they know and they talk to. Most of them, they speak English very well. And it is a stereotype, but it's pretty accurate that most of Vietnamese who speaks English well and who are willing to talk to Westerners, usually they are liberals or reactionaries, or both, right? Because most of them they willing to talk to Westerners because they already liberals and they love the West. They love capitalism. That is why they're willing to talk to those. They love to talk to those expats. Most of Vietnamese communists, like me, we don't want to. We don't need to. And the thing is that it is also another stereotype that the vast majority of Westerners in Vietnam are anti-communists and reactionaries. That is why most of Vietnamese communists, we don't want to talk to those people. We want to get away from you. All right? Of course, we know that we know that it's not always true, but it is a fact that the vast majority of Westerners in Vietnam are anti-communist. So even if you talk to a real actual communist Vietnamese, but we would usually avoid talking about politics with you. All right, it's just kind of the victim bias, something like that. When Vietnam is the victim of colonialism and imperialism, so that is why we don't have a high trust on Westerners the first time we met. So usually we will avoid talking about politics stuff because we're not sure that you're safe to talk to or not, and we don't want to listen to your bullshit about us anymore. And people who are willing to talk to you about political things are mostly liberals. That is why lots of those people, because they live in their own world, teeny tiny world, they don't know better. That is why they think that most of Vietnamese are anti-communist. Most of Vietnamese are liberals. I had white expat literally told this to my face, that socialism, communism is a dead ideology in Vietnam, and no Vietnamese is socialist or communist anymore. By the way, that white expat called himself leftist. I don't know what kind of leftist, but they call themselves leftist. And they literally told me that it's a dead ideology in Vietnam and there's no socialism because they never talk to anybody like that. And I asked them okay, you're living in Vietnam right now and you have a Vietnamese wife, right? So how many people you talk to every day? Are you an English teacher? And they literally said yeah. And then most of the people he talked to was they're students, secondary school students, a bunch of teenagers. So did they really think that a bunch of teenagers in Vietnam are good enough in English to talk about the deep ideology, deep philosophical stuff with them? And for fuck's sake, they're kids. Why do they want to talk about that to you? And also in a teeny tiny number of Vietnamese that you talk to, most of them are fucking liberals. It's very annoying. They told that to my fucking face. It's really ridiculous. And when I showed them, I made a whole thread because I was mad. It was not just one person taught like that. A whole lots of expats in Vietnam taught that. And I had to send them just some examples of how many communist Facebook pages with hundreds of thousands of followers in Vietnam, and how we talk about all of this in Vietnamese space with Vietnamese communists only because we don't want to deal with you. All right, and yeah, it speaks a lot about their chauvinism. They don't know better, but they still think that like they just taste a little bit of the flavor of Vietnam. They live here in a few years. They can't even speak Vietnamese well, and like they don't show any like respect, or at least be humble about it. No, they don't. They act like they know the best. They are the smartest person in the room. That is very annoying. That is chauvinism. And how do we deal with this? I don't know. This is kind of thing that like it got ingrained inside their head since the day they were born. You know? Yeah, mammoths. Exactly. Those freaking kids. They just love like, K-pops. Watching movies. Alright? Try to flirt with each other. Like, who cares about those deep ideology stuff and those people? Yes, those expats, they had the guts to tell this straight up to my face that communism is a dead ideology in Vietnam. There's no Vietnamese communists, no young Vietnamese who are communists to this day. And everything that I said were lies. All the things that I said was they were all lies because they never encountered that their whole life. Like, first, dude, I'm Vietnamese. I've been living here my whole life, 30 years already, and I speak perfect Vietnamese. Seriously. So like, really? So you think that people is gonna just take your word because you somehow you moved here, live here for a few years, you talk to a bunch of kids, you talk to a bunch of liberal Vietnamese super small teeny tiny numbers? Oh, they even said something like they talk to at least like 75 to 125 Vietnamese every day. Like, that's like, do you meet like 100 Vietnamese every day, like the same 100 Vietnamese, or 100 new Vietnamese every day? Because there's a huge difference here, all right? So like, absolutely ridiculous. Exactly. Most of students who get to study English more with Westerners are children of petty bourgeois in Vietnam. Petty bourgeoisie in Vietnam, and usually are liberals. Like exactly. Yes. So it's ridiculous, and yeah, and not just one person. So again, the bigger question here is about chauvinism. It's a big deal. And a lot of you, like unconsciously have it. You don't know that you're chauvinist. Only until somebody challenges you realize that you have chauvinism inside your head, because it is something, as I said, like ingrained inside your mind since the day you were born. Like, you were born, like, especially if you're white, you're male, you're cis, you're middle class. It's like, just look at how, like how you've been taught your whole life, and how you've been like, how you like been talking to other people. Because like I talk about this with my partner EJ yesterday about like me, Luna. I am a Vietnamese woman who is communist and who is bisexual. All right. So think about it. I am like, think about the white supremacist kind of system. I am nearly at the bottom of their pyramid. I am a woman of color, born and living in the global south, and I am a communist, right? I'm nearly at the bottom. of that fucking horrible hierarchy. So, and I can see that like there are a lot of people talk over me every single day on the internet. And many of them don't even realize that. All right? And usually people like me, because of many reasons, maybe like they don't want to deal with those chauvinists, they don't have time and effort, or they have a small platform that even when they speak up, nobody listens to them. All right, I am lucky that I have my own kind of platform, and I have my own audience, I have my own comrades. So like when I speak for myself against those people, you know, I stand up and speak up for me and my own people. So lucky that I have quite a few audience that willing to listen. So like that is why like I usually my partner usually say like mask off. Like usually because of me, so lots of people got mask off. Yes, why? Why me? I don't want that because it's traumatizing. It's very traumatizing that I have to deal with this shit every single day on the internet. I don't have to deal with this in real life because I've been living in Vietnam happily. I don't have to deal with that shit, but every second that I go online, go on Twitter or YouTube, very much likely that I will meet some shitheads online like that from the West. And they just like constantly talk over me. They constantly attack me, sexual harass me, like attack me with a racist and like sexist attacks. Horrible. So it's pretty sad. You know, like those people, because they talk over us their whole life, so they don't even recognize that, or they think that's normal or something, or they feel better or something. But like once I challenge their chauvinism and I pointed that out, usually instead of like just realize that, you know, instead of like just maybe stop for a second and realize what you just told me, what you just said to me, what you just did, and maybe like apologize, or maybe you don't even need to apologize, just please disappear. All right, please just go away and disappear and block me or whatever. But most of the chauvinists, they double down. That's very funny. After they got called out for sexual harassment or sexual attack or racist attacks, and I point that out, they usually double down. And they usually say like they don't feel bad, that they don't see any problem. It's just a joke, you know, and you cannot get it. It's just a joke. Come on. It's like, no, dude. When you told somebody something, and that body told you that, hey, I don't feel comfortable with this. This is racist. This is sexist. Maybe apologize or just go away, disappear, vanish into thin air. All right, don't talk back. That's the very least thing you should do. But no, most of you double down, try to make excuses. And when they got like challenged hard by many other people, got called out by many other people, they just like, then you know, like they it's just a joke. Come on, you cannot get it, you weak ass or something like that. Like, it is a very toxic kind of mindset. And I'm seeing that every single day on the internet, especially on the leftist space. How can I do about it? It's just a prank, bro. Yeah. Yep. So the thing is that like I thought about this a lot. It's like how to build a movement in the West. Leftist movement. I'm not even talking about reactionaries or right-wingers anymore because I have no bars for them. My bar for them is super low right now. I'm focusing on the leftist space right now. I can see, look at it from my own perspective. All right, from a woman of color, born and living in Vietnam, and also a communist. And I am not just a self-study, self-learned communist. I was trained Marxist. I was trained officially with the Marxism-Leninism ideology in school. So I'm really confident with the knowledge that I know about this kind of ideology and the path that we are walking on. All right. Looking at the Western leftist space right now, I see a very big problem is that like lots of you still have a very strong like white supremacism, chauvinism inside of you that you don't even recognize it. All right. And it is a thing that we need to recognize and talk about it more, because the thing in Vietnam is that like self-criticism is a very important thing, important culture in Vietnam that Ho Chi Minh talk about this a lot. Ho Chi Minh even tried to turn like self-criticism culture into something like tradition culture in Vietnam, that we do it every day. We do self-criticism, and we also constructively criticize other people. The point is not just to dunk on other people or on your comrades. The point is that like you see the problems and then you talk about that problem to your comrades to try to fix it constructively. All right, that is very important. It is like a healthy way to criticize other people, and always constantly criticize yourself. Stop for a moment, calm down, and think about what you did, about what you said, and think about putting your feet into other people's shoes. Think about like what do they feel when they hear this. All right, that's okay. So now, in the West, Western leftists. How to say it? Lots of you still don't want to listen. You love to talk a lot. You don't want to listen. And when you talk to people like me, like us, people of color from Global South, usually, now this is a fact, usually you think that you know better. You try to tell us what to do. And when we speak up about our own life experience, our own knowledge, our own perspective, you dismiss it. You gloss over it. You don't care. All right? So, for example, think about like the indigenous people. When we talk about land back and we talk about decolonization, all right? Lots and lots of Western leftists. Oh, again, I want to add one more point. When I mention the white supremacist mindset, it doesn't mean that you don't need to be white to have this white supremacist mindset. There are Black people who have this mindset. They are Vietnamese people who have this mindset. Andy Ngo, go check him out. He's gay Vietnamese diaspora, born in the USA, and he's straight up fascist, white supremacist. So, when I talk about white supremacist or white supremacism, it's not just limit. It doesn't just limit within the white space. It can apply to everyone. All right, so keep that in mind. All right. Back to the point. Indigenous people, when we talk about land back and decolonization, When I talk about that, I just mention those slogans, those words. Lots and lots of Western leftists, they panic. And then instead of, because they don't understand what do indigenous people mean when they say land back or decolonization. And then because they don't understand, they don't know. So like they use the knowledge that they some kind of already existed in their head, and they force that like we indigenous people meant that when they said it. Instead of just calm down for a moment and ask indigenous people like, hey, what do you mean when you say land back? What do you mean when you say decolonization? And then they would, and we would love to explain to you. Oh my gosh, we would love to educate you. Come on, just ask us in good faith first. And then after we explain that to you, and then if you still have any questions, okay, raise them up and we will answer them all. But you know what? Most of the Western leftists, especially debate bros, instead of fucking like invite indigenous people to go to that stream and talk about it, or like just make like a Twitter like thread, ask about it. No, they gather together, a bunch of white people, white supremacists. They gather together. They talk about it. They talk fucking out of their ass. They don't understand what the fuck we mean when we say land back or decolonization. So, and then when people like me and Silver Spook and many other indigenous people, like Twin Rabbits or Yarn or like Timothy, like all the indigenous people, great, awesome content creators on YouTube, on Twitch, on Twitter, we openly explain this to those white supremacists. Instead of listen and maybe try to like, oh, maybe I was wrong about this, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. No, they doubled out. They straight up dismiss our life experience. They dismiss our history. They dismiss our official explanation. They still insist on their already existed, already made up accusation and assumption. It is very tiring. It is very tiring. Like, once again, you claim that you are leftist. You claim that you're anarchist. You claim that you're Marxist-Leninist. You claim that you're leftist because you want a better world for everybody. You don't like to care about us. But then, when we talk about our own movement, our own problem, you don't listen. Because deep down in your heart, you don't care. You still think that you know better. And you don't care about us. You don't care about our struggles and our problems. Like, okay, indigenous people. About 200 years ago, when the settlers came to the USA, there were about from 95 to 115 million indigenous people living in the USA today. 95 million to 115 million indigenous people. But to this day, today, there are only 3 millions of indigenous people left. Over 90% of indigenous people was wiped out by the United States of fucking America. This is one of the biggest genocide on a group of people in the world that nobody even challenged it. All right? I just feel so bad and so mad whenever I talk about this. I'm sorry. If you're white and you live in America, I don't know how poor you are or how poor your family were, but Your ancestors was one of the reasons why there are only 3 million indigenous people left in America to this day. And they are living a horrible living conditions. They are being brutally attacked and arrested and killed by the police. And during this pandemic, nobody care about them. They don't have a land, the stolen land. All their land was stolen by the United States of America. You, as the next generation, you are living on that land. And when indigenous people talk about land back, decolonization, lots and lots of white people, especially white, they panic. They think about like reverse racism, reverse genocide, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, you know, we cannot support indigenous people. We cannot support their movement because what if they would do reverse genocide on us? Like, what if they would just deport all of us out of America? Like, dude. So, because you're scared of your imaginary like reverse genocide, that you rather support the ongoing genocide of this fucking America. You're so scared of something that only exists in your head that you rather shit on the ongoing genocide of indigenous people. And seriously, even if the indigenous people somehow once in a million chance, maybe they really want to kick all of you out of the USA. Dude, there are only 3 million of them. What can they do? Even if they really want to do it. Their fear based purely on their own projection. There's no evidence whatsoever that it could and it would happen in real life at all. And the thing is that, like, yes, lots of people are saying that we shouldn't support that movement is a civil movement because what if reverse racism, what if the reverse genocide, blah blah blah. And then whenever those people talk about that to me, I usually just ask them one question like, hey, do you think that it was totally okay for Vietnamese people to kick out the French colonialists and American imperialists out of Vietnam in the 50s and in the 70s? Was it okay for us to do that? It's the same exact thing happened in Vietnam. You know, like, the French, they colonized us for over 100 years. They brought their families here. They had children here. They enslaved us for over 100 years. So, I mean, if, you know, if like Vietnamese, we lost the Dien Bien Phu victory in 1954, and if we still under the occupation, under the colonization of the French people to this day, I bet you would say like, oh, it was totally unethical. It's totally not okay for Vietnamese people to kick out the French out of Vietnam right now because that means a reverse racism and reverse genocide. Same thing in America. Because you've been lived there for so long, 250 years. That you think that the genocide is okay now? You don't have to do any fucking thing to change it, to fix it? No. Because like, your ancestor did it and you didn't do that and you still fucking benefit from the system and you feel fine about it as long as you didn't do it. Really? And you call yourself leftist? Huh? Texan White Panda, thank you so much for your super chat. Terrorists is equal to oppressed people fighting for their lives. It's sad seeing even leftists falling for this, but it comes from a place of privilege. Exactly. So like to good question. I will answer this question real quick. I recently met an online friend who is living in Vietnam. She told me that many people who live in her city prefer to call it Saigon instead of Ho Chi Minh City. What's your take? Is this a problem? It is a bro tip for you to know that that person is a communist or not, or that person is anti-communist or liberal. Just ask them to call Ho Chi Minh City. If they feel comfortable and totally fine with it, okay, they are at least apolitical in Vietnam. It means that they are left-leaning in Vietnam. All right, but if they feel uncomfortable and they refuse to call Ho Chi Minh City, and they insist on just use the name Saigon, they are straight up reactionaries. That's a pro tip for you. And there are lots of anti-communists living in Ho Chi Minh City. It's a fact. Just like there are lots of reactionaries like Miami Cubans living in Miami. And if they ask like them what they think about Cuba, of course they would think that like, oh, go, Cuba is a reactionary right now. Nobody loves communism in Cuba, blah blah. Again, you have to ask the right group of people. As people are living in Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City, I feel fine using both names. Most of Vietnamese people are fine with using both names interchangeably. All right. If you ask that people living in Ho Chi Minh City who just insist on calling it Saigon, it's just like, as I said, you ask like Miami Cubans what they think about Miami, and what they think about Cuba, what do you think about like Havana and Fidel Castro. So very biased. And I again can guarantee you that the vast majority of Vietnamese people comfortable using both names interchangeably. You don't have any problem with like Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City. Only the people who just insist on calling it Saigon, they are straight up reactionary and anti-communist. Yeah, even Miami Cubans are not all right-wing. Exactly. I should have mentioned that earlier. Yes. So, yeah. I call it Saigon because it's shorter, but recently I've started using Ho Chi Minh City more because now I know the proper abbreviation for it. Yeah. So this is a very easy tip to help you tell that Vietnamese is real like communist or and reactionary. All right. The Google map would say Ho Chi Minh City because that is the official name for that city in Vietnam. And whenever we need like to be like a formal like document or something like that, you usually just say it Ho Chi Minh City. That's fine. Yeah. What else? What I was talking about? Oh, the people who reverse genocide and the thing were happening in Vietnam. Correct. So yes. So we successfully. The thing is that like Vietnamese people, we successfully decolonize ourselves by winning the Dien Bien Phu victory and by kicking out colonialist French out of Vietnam, including children, including their children. Yes, we kicked them out. The thing is that like when we were fighting against that, we never said like we have to kill them all or like no matter what we have to kick them out. No, we did not do that. We even appear to French colonialists. We appear to them, try to have them to fight with our side. You know, like try to like, if you have money, please donate to us, or like if you have like your houses, your mansions, and we need some place to stay in, please help us. We desperately appear for their help and encourage them to join our side to fight. There were very few. There were few number of actual French like soldiers switched the side and fought for Vietnam. That did happen, and we welcome them. We even call them the new Vietnamese. Yes, that did happen, and we welcome you. It's not like ethno state or nothing like that. We don't do the reverse like genocide. No, and we did not kick the French out of Vietnam because we were racist. We kicked them out of Vietnam because they were enslaving our people. They were torturing and killing our people. They're stealing our natural resources to make their own family, their own country rich. That was why we kicked them out. All right? It had nothing to do with reverse racism or like reverse genocide at all. And now we welcome Westerners to go live in Vietnam. We welcome French people to go live in Vietnam. We welcome Americans to go live in Vietnam. We're fine with it. But the difference is that like you don't go here on the position that you are our oppressors. You come here in the position that you are our immigrants, and you have to respect our people, respect our culture, and respect our history. All right? You don't come here to enslave our people, to exploit us. That is a totally different position. I hope that you understand that. Is Vietnam an ethno state right now? Seriously. Is Vietnam an ethno state? That is why those people who panic and who try to perpetuate the white genocide idea, they are absolutely delusional. It's just straight up projection. And they have no evidence whatsoever to back up their argument at all. Just look at Vietnam, we did exactly what they scared of. We did exactly what indigenous people want to do in their own home country. And Vietnam is fine. I was born in Vietnam, even in extreme poverty. I was born in extreme poverty, thanks to the comprehensive embargoes imposed on us by the USA. But my whole life, I never faced any racism when I grew up. No. I am always being proud of our history, of our culture. I speak my language freely. I practice my culture freely. I am proud to be a Vietnamese. I'm proud to be me today. And I got given a piece of land, rice field by the government for free, 500 square meter. Yay! That's when what you will have for your children, when you have a self-determination, when you can freely preserve your culture, your language, and your tradition. You're proud to be yourself. Michael Harrison, thank you so much. I often cite you as a source in my work about socialist democracy. And I think Vietnam is a more appealing and democratic country than Canada, FYI. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. The three stripers who left South Vietnam found homes in my hometown and had kids. Imagine having parents as three stripers. Not a good place to learn about communism. Well, seriously, not a good place. Oh, hello, Spirit Mayo. The thing is that, like, when we do decolonization, sorry, when I do decolonization, the very basic understanding of it that you should all know is that, like, first, we encourage you to join our movement. That's gonna be awesome. All right? And like once we win that fight, you're welcome to live with us. You're welcome to live with us. And I am sure, I can assure you that your life is gonna be way better under our self-determination than under capitalism right now in the United States of America. Because, you know what? Indigenous people, talking about indigenous people in the USA right now, they don't believe in the ownership of the land. The land is the mother, and nobody owns it. All right? That was so ding-dong. That was why it's so ding-dong when I saw a pretty famous content creator who happens to be white. They said that like land bank is just like the changing the ownership, the privatization of ownership of land. It's absolutely ridiculous and laughable. It speaks a lot of how like ignorant they are about our belief. We don't even believe in the ownership of land. Land is the mother. That's like Hawaiian people say land is Aina. And Aina means the mother, and you don't own your mother. We share, we live harmony together. So if Hawaiians, they take back their Hawaii, all right, all of their islands, they take back their self-determination and their freedom, there's gonna be no homeless people in Hawaii anymore. All right? And if you want to go to live in Hawaii, to live with with their culture and their tradition, you're gonna live harmony with the environment. You're gonna have a home, you're gonna have a piece of farm to live together with it. You're welcome. It's a really beautiful scenario in the future that I cannot believe that lots of you just shit on us because you're ignorant, you don't know better. It's sad. It's very sad. Like, thanks to decolonization, that every single Vietnamese who were born in the rural area, we were given a free piece of rice field from the government. 500 square meter, I own it. I own a piece of rice field in my hometown right now. That I can like work on it, or I can sell it to anybody anytime I want. Yes. Because we took back our self-determination, we took back our land. That is why we can redistribute it to other people. Look at what's going on in USA right now. Can you imagine that if you were born in the USA and then since the day you were born, you were given a piece of farm, a piece of field for you so you can live on it. You can make enough like food to live on it, simply, like that. Just imagine that. Do you or your family farm the plot, the rice farm? Yeah, I grew up working on my own rice farm. So we have 4 members in my family. My parents and my older brother. So 4 people. So we have 4 pieces of land. So the total is about 2,000 square meters of rice field. And I work on it since I was a kid, like 8 years old or something. I went to the rice field to work with my mom, and it was fun. It was not like child labor, please don't get me wrong. It was like so fun, you know, like I just went there, play with the grass, play with the butterflies, play with the cows, somebody's cows on wandering around on the rice field. And sometimes like have my mom grab some grass out of the rice and catch some fishes or snails or something like that, and catch grasshoppers, and then I grill it and eat it as snacks. That's my favorite snacks when I was a kid. It's like very peaceful like that. Yes, and only like in the recent years, like like we are not home, and me and my older brother not home anymore, and my parents kind of old, so they don't have enough like health to work on the rice farm anymore. So we gave it to one of my aunts. So one of my aunts is like growing rice on our rice farm right now, and we just like because my parents just need just enough rice to eat for every crop. So like my aunt just like freely farm on that rice field, and every like crops they would give my mom and my dad some rice back, enough for them to live on, two of them, even though they farm on my rice field. So but I don't take anything. It's just like, okay, you farm on it freely. That's just it. It's simple as that. And if like even my aunt cannot do that anymore, like I would just ask some people, some villagers Like, hey, you have a time and effort to work on our rice farm. We don't need anything. You just like maybe like give us some rice back, so enough for my parents to eat, so they don't have to buy rice. And that's it. And my whole life, we never had to buy rice. Nah, just like from enough that's from the field that we already have. So that's it. Unfortunately, the native Hawaiian most likely will have to fight to get the land back. The US will genocide the whole native population, then give those land back. Yes. It is too important for the US force. Exactly. I mean, the USA illegally occupying the whole beautiful islands of Hawaii just because it's so important for their military bases. And now Mark Zuckerberg owned a half of Hawaii. He owned a half of Hawaii. And seriously, if those anti-land back leftists, quote unquote, if like they anti-land back and they defend for the white genocide, they literally protecting Mark Zuckerberg, protecting his right to own a half of Hawaii. If they're really anti-indigenous, anti-land back, they protecting Mark Zuckerberg times a lot. White leftists, white supremacist leftists, thanks a lot for protecting the rights of billionaires to own the shit out of land, of stolen land. And they even dream that like they can somehow turn America into a socialist, communist nation, country, without giving the land back to indigenous people. Like, you cannot build socialism on a stolen land. That is a fucking fact. No, you don't. I'm so sorry. I will say it again. You cannot build socialism on the stolen land. You cannot build communism on the genocide of a group of people. You just simply cannot, so shut the fuck up. So tired. Like what? When Vietnamese were we decolonize our country, decolonize our people. What the first thing that we did after we won the Vietnam War? After we won the Dien Bien Phu victory in 1954. Okay, we won the military fight. All right? And those colonizers, oh, they panic. They immediately ran out of Vietnam. Fine. Go. Bye-bye. Never see you again. Bye. What? So then we take the land back after we won the military victory. We took the land back. We seized the land back from all of the plantations. We took the mansions back from those colonizers. And then we took land back from like landlords too. And then what? We redistributed. We did land reforms. We redistribute the lands equally to the poor peasants, to workers, to anybody who don't have a land. So, land back is just even a small step to start with. It's not even the whole movement. It's not even the whole plan. Land back is just a step. First step. You first take the land back, and then only once you have the land back, you can redistribute it to the people in need. You cannot hope a settler state to redistribute land for you. That is absolutely will never happen. It will never happen. No fucking way. That is why in order to have everybody have their own piece of land, you have to take the land back first. Yeah, a lot of people saying that like, Myanmar saying, I understand your question. Again, as I said, it's like it's kind of like at least like the French, they still have their French country to go back to. What about like the white supremacists in America right now, where they run back to? Again, this is very funny, but again, yes, it's the same argument by yeah, and that is why they're so scared. They're so panic, and that is absolutely ridiculous argument because, as I said, there are only 3 million indigenous left in America. All right? So give them 1 state or 2 states. That's it. There are 50 states in America right now. Give them 2 states. And then you can have the 48 state left. Do whatever the fuck you want with us. You don't even have to go out of America. Those ding dong, I cannot believe. So they seriously believe that 3 million indigenous people are gonna take over the all 50 states of the America? God damn it! Hawaiian, they just want their Hawaii, like their land, their islands back. They don't even need to take over the whole United 50 states. Jesus! Mind blowing, I cannot believe it. I seriously, you need me, a woman from Vietnam, have to explain this to you? Isn't that obvious? Like, when we talk about land back, it doesn't mean we take the whole America back. We don't need to. We don't even need that much because 3 millions of us left. 3 millions. What can we do? Just give us 1 or 2 states. You have the rest. Go live in it happily, okay? Nobody cares. So like over there, you know, even though you will be saying a lot like, oh, the education system over there is like you teach people to think outside of the box, you know, but even though, yeah, you encourage to think outside the box, but still within the bigger box. You cannot think outside of that bigger box. So, you, those anti-land back leftist Westerners, you're so scared of that concept of land back decolonization because you cannot imagine a better scenario. Your whole life, you just experience like white supremacism, chauvinism, projection. You just like you just know what the horrible things that you did with indigenous people and black people and people of color. So you think that the whole humanity is like that. You genocided us. So you think that the only way to change like we will genocide you back. Nobody wants that. We don't want that. People of color, we don't want that. Please, again, truly think outside of the box, outside of the indoctrination that you've been hearing and listening and learning your whole life. Okay, you did genocide us. You colonize us. You imperialize us. You stole everything that we have. And we want to get away from it. We want freedom and self-determination. We want you to leave us alone. We don't want to reverse genocide or any shit like that. No, actually, you are the barbaric one here. You are barbaric, not us. We just want to live harmony together. Everybody have enough piece of land and a house and a home and a farm to live on. We decolonize means that we want to live freely from colonization and exploitation and slavery. That's it. Can we just live harmony together? Again, it's a pure projection. Pure projection from white supremacist people when they think that like the only way to stop genocide is another genocide. All right, we checking the question. You still have any question for me? Please ask. I'm checking the chat right now to see what you're talking about. The USA has broken every agreement they have made with indigenous people in current territorial borders. There are plenty of maps online of them amending the deal from a decent size of land to nothing. Yep.
You're not checking my private.
I did. I'm about to do that at the end of my video, at the end of my live stream.
Just trying to help a comrade, that's all.
Okay, I saw that, and I'm planning to do
Also,
that.
I just tallied up the total for the fundraiser we did.
Oh, how much we get?
Wait, I'm gonna go check.
So we 2 days ago we just had a fundraiser stream right on the Halloween night, and we raised a fund for International Anti-Fascist Fund. And now we just calculate the final kind of how much we got from it, and we will announce it right now.
We raised $683, and I'll round it up to $700. So we'll throw in like $20.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll throw in $20, so it'll be like $703 total. So.
Okay, we throw in the $20, so it's gonna be total $700. Yay. Does EJ always wake up late and stumble in here also? He actually woke up way earlier than me. He woke up at like 4 or 5 in the morning.
I thought that when I told you that, you'd be like, yay, and you have a little celebration.
Yay! Celebration!
Like,
hey, I want to talk to you.
I'm not wearing a shirt.
Wear a shirt.
Okay. Give me that shirt.
So, yeah. He woke up like way earlier than me. And then we work on the book together for a few hours. And when I started this stream, he felt kind of tired, so he took a nap. I just got a silver sticker.
What kind of sticker is
it? Yeah, I'm checking. It's the green pear holding the weight, lifting the weight and doing that.
Getting cardio and strength training in.
Thank you so much. Fair. Thank you so much. I am Lily. I like your name.
What do you want?
I want to ask you.
You summoned me.
I summoned you.
What do you want to ask me?
I'm close. Please show up your
I'm
shirt.
camera shy. This is my red shirt that I wear every week.
The red shirt.
Yeah, I wear it when we do our stream Black Shirts and Reds. We're on my stream Works in Theory that I do with my comrade Grant every Monday night on Non-Compete Live, where we did the Communist Manifesto. You can go back and watch those VODs, or you can watch the Black Shirts and Reds, which we're reading now. What's up?
Because I talk a lot about chauvinism, white supremacism, and land by in this stream. I want to ask you, because you grew up in South Carolina, super red state.
Yeah.
I want you to tell me about your experience of living over there, facing white supremacism and supremacism in like daily life, like daily basis, and how you encounter this here in Vietnam right now.
So it's kind of interesting because in the southeast of the USA, like the former Confederacy, like South Carolina was the core of the Confederacy. It's literally where the Civil War began. It's where they shot the first shot from Fort Sumter. It was the ideological core. It's where they came up with mudsill theory and the other ideological positions that they used to justify slavery.
Really heavy, huh?
The Confederate States of America. Yeah. So South Carolina is pretty interesting because there's this kind of cognitive dissonance, sort of split identity that Southern people tend to have. Now, I'm kind of not interesting, but a little bit unusual because my dad's from New York, my mom's from the South, and I was not raised with any kind of like affinity for the Confederacy, and that really extends to like my my Southern grandpa, like he never taught me to like worship the South or the Confederate flag or anything like that, right? But I was surrounded by people who loved the Confederate flag and loved the Confederacy. And I did have friends growing up who were like, you know, super into like the Confederacy and stuff like that. And
Gosh.
but it's kind of weird because it's like I always felt a little bit confused by it all, I guess, because like I had all these classmates and friends and shit that were like super, and by the way, also I was a Navy brat, so military family. So like I had all these friends and like their parents were also in the military because Charleston was like a military town at the time, Navy town. And they'd be like super patriotic about the USA, but they'd also be like pro-Confederate. And I never really understood that. And it's like, yeah, there's a lot of like kind of weird false consciousness going on in the South specifically. So I don't know, like I had a kind of an unusual experience. Like a lot of the political stuff that was going on when I was growing up had to do with the Confederate flag on the State House. And I was always against the flag. I never felt any kind of like allegiance to the Confederacy at all. But I saw, and I knew a lot of people who did have that kind of like weird affinity for the Confederacy. And I think, and here's why I'm talking about all that. I think that the kind of false consciousness, I think viewing that false consciousness of like loyalty and obedience, not obedience, but affinity for the Confederacy, I think that gave me a unique sort of outsider's perspective, like to be from the outside looking in at like what nationalist false consciousness can look like, which has now, only now really, I've never processed it until going through all this recent stuff, but like now I have this really great sort of parallel.
Creative experiments asked, do you have your Southern accent?
It's interesting because I hid my Southern accent for so long that now it feels natural for me to talk however I'm talking right now. So I'm not like trying to hide my accent right now.
But you used
But I think I've eliminated it basically. I'm almost 40 years old. So, but I definitely used to hide my Southern accent. And when I'm around Southern people, it comes out more. I know that. But so my point in talking about the Confederacy is this. I feel like the false consciousness that a lot of Southern people have for the Confederacy is really quite similar to the false consciousness that a lot of white Americans have for the USA specifically. And like, I'm thinking about this so much lately. It's like the confusing the bourgeois state of the USA for the working people of the USA, to me, also has parallels to like Israel. When people are like confusing Jews with Zionists, I find that anti-Semitic and disrespectful to Jewish people, because like, and this is something that's been explained to me by like Jewish comrades, Trekkie 69, Anarchy 69, rebranded Anarchy 69, has talked about this quite a bit, but like, yeah, I mean, so I think that like conflating Israel and Zionism, like the Israeli state is what I mean. The Israeli state and Zionism with like being Jewish is actually kind of like anti-Semitic. And I think that conflating the United States of America as a bourgeois state, which is a terrorist state, which, by the way, if you read Black Shirts and Reds, you'll learn how the bourgeois state of the United States of America from the very beginning of fascism has worked hand in glove with fascism. Literally going back to Mussolini and the Nazis. And there were literally Nazis and Italian fascists who were brought over to the USA to work in campaigns for presidential candidates. They were placed in high levels of NATO. They were put all over the State Department apparatus after World War II. Like there were corporations that collaborated with Nazis during World War II, like literal Third Reich German Nazis. So like conflating that state, which has existed only to subjugate, enslave, murder working class Americans with the police, et cetera, like bust unions, all this shit, conflating that with the working people of the USA and the proletariat, the American proletariat, I think is a huge blunder.
Yeah.
And I think it's false consciousness. My big thing, I think my big task, or what I really hope to accomplish, is to try to teach people about capitalist hegemony and bourgeois civil society in the West, and try to like help people see past that false consciousness. It's basically like, I think my job, I feel like my job as a YouTuber and a streamer or whatever, more than anything else, is to try to make people aware of false consciousness so that they can deprogram themselves. And the reason that is because it's such a big journey for me. I won't say past tense. It is a continuing journey for me to relieve myself of false consciousness. And I feel like a victim of false consciousness because like arguably some of the best years of my life when I was in my teens and 20s, I spent completely mired in this false consciousness, believing all these lies, because I was so thoroughly brainwashed. And I feel kind of super betrayed by the system that we call the USA. So, yeah, does that make sense?
It's very painful. Very much
Yeah,
painful.
and it sucks that I'm still, like, it really hurts and sucks, and I feel it feels like dog shit to know that there's still shit kicking around in my mind that's harmful, and I'm still, because it's like I'm finding stuff all the time and having to eradicate like this dogma and this false consciousness even now. And we've been working on this for years now, and it's like it's not something you can just get over
nap
overnight.
it out.
Yeah, but it's such a it's a false like escape. And I think that the lure of the American patriot socialism is that you can relinquish yourself from any responsibility or blame, and you could say, okay, like a lot of these people I think are saying like, okay, I'm a white cis-het male, but I don't want to recognize any of the responsibility or the roles that I've played in keeping the working class divided and keeping certain people super exploited and extra oppressed. I don't want to have anything. I don't want to acknowledge any of that. I want to be a communist. I want, to overthrow capitalism, but I don't want to acknowledge the part that I play in the internal secondary contradiction hierarchy structures of bourgeois civil society in the capitalist USA. So it's kind of like a get out of jail free card kind of thing, and I can see why that's very attractive, right? But it's and people are like, and it's very simple. It sounds very simple. It's like, okay, people in the USA love the flag, which I find that to be, I think that's questionable, and I think that any grip the flag has had on people, it's like much less powerful than it was 20 years ago. There's been so much bullshit in the USA. There's a reason that so many people are starting to wake up to socialism and communism, anarchism.
There's a reason, yeah.
And it's not because we love the USA flag, you know what I mean? So yeah, but also like people want to pretend that it's simpler than it is. It's like there are all these contradictions within the working class. Everyone wants to talk about the external contradiction, and I think I know why. Everyone wants to talk about the external contradiction between the working class and the capitalist class. But nobody wants to talk about the internal contradictions within the working class. And in the USA, the capitalists have done such a good job of like turning the working class into our own prison keepers. We guard ourselves through reinforcing things like transphobia, racism, colonialism, all this kind of shit. So like, yeah, anyway, we have to we can't just like turn a blind eye to that shit. We have to recognize the secondary contradictions if we want to negate them. And you're not going to do that by just pretending they don't exist, or like pretending that you're colorblind, or pretending that you don't see race, you don't see, these, it makes absolutely no sense. And I hate the idea that like, and I used to think this way too, before you taught me more about dialectical materialism, but I used to think, when I first started getting into communism and anarchism, I was like, all right, well, we got to just overthrow capitalism first. And then after that, it'll be so much easier to get rid of racism and transphobia and all this other stuff, right? But it's like, that's a fucking super like metaphysical linear way of thinking. Yeah. Like first you do this, then you do that, then you do that. That's how we're trained in the USA, by the way, to become like good little workers. It's like everything is like a process with like a beginning.
Step 1, step 2, step 3.
Yeah.
Clearly like that.
But what you've helped me to learn is that all these things are so intertangled and intertwined, and that this linear thinking doesn't work. It's useless because and what you've helped me realize too is that from looking at for instance the history of Vietnam, is that like a blow to transphobia, a blow to patriarchy, a blow to colonialism is a blow to capitalism. And that as we work to towards the ends of, like, for instance, land back or decolonization or whatever you want to call it. And as we work towards ending the patriarchy and liberating gay people and all these kinds of things, we are simultaneously weakening capitalism and furthering the agenda of socialism. That to me is like the way forward to negating these secondary contradictions. It's not going to be easy though. I mean, like, it's super not going to be easy. I tried to talk about this in my most recent video, but like the contradiction between, like, for instance, white settlers like me and indigenous people in the USA, it's a very severe contradiction because the white working class did participate in colonization every step of the way, like through Manifest Destiny up until this day.
You benefit from it
to
this day.
We didn't even just benefit from it though, but like any white person that's in the USA right now has participated in colonization in some way, and certainly benefited from the ancestors who did it as well. I mean, like, if you're living on stolen land, if you're from a family that's been in the country for...
if you live on a stolen land, and if you're benefiting from the system, but you refuse to sign with the oppressed people to dismantle that system, you are literally helping the system.
Now, and people bristle up at this, and they're like, but I didn't come here 200 years ago. It's like, okay, fine. I mean, like, understand your role, though, and recognize what benefits you do have. And you know, recognize it with nuance as well. So, like, if you're living in a rented house that you don't actually own, that's part of... That goes into it. That enters into it.
And if you don't even own a house right now, so of course you should side with the indigenous people so they can have their house.
Right, like you, what you're siding like you're.
So what? You're siding with the landlords?
They act like it's binary thinking is the problem. It's binary thinking. It's like the two options are, like, I guess, maintain things the way they are, or the Native Americans come and kick everybody out. It's like, it's what the fuck are you talking about? Like, really. If you're against decolonization right now, you're basically taking the side of your landlord. If you own your own home, okay, if you do own your own home and you own land in the USA, as a communist, you need to interrogate yourself. Well, what does land ownership really mean? Like, should that structure even exist? How do indigenous people think about the relationship between humans and land? Like, just start thinking about these things more deeply. It doesn't have to be this binary kind of all or nothing kind of thing, but you at least have to first start asking these questions, which we don't even want to do.
So that this is not even the thing that never ever happened. It did happen in Vietnam. It happened in my family. My family is on my mom's side, like a super landlord in town. And yes, all of their land, in a moment of time, all of their land and all of their houses, all of their mansions were taken away from the communists and the peasants. And then what? They got given back a piece of land and a house equal to other peasants.
Well, yeah, but and here's the thing though, you say that, Luna, and then but here's how I guarantee you, maybe not your audience because your audience is so cool and hip, but a typical U.S. American, I guarantee you pick any garden variety average U.S. American, and they're going to think that what you just gave was a formula for exactly what we should do in the USA. Do you get what I'm saying? That's how we think about things. They're going to hear what you just said, and they're going to go like, well, that wouldn't work because the USA is different, and we couldn't blah, 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 blah. And it's like, Luna's not giving you an exact formula for it. She's saying what happened in Vietnam, and it's just to show that there are, like, paths forward. Do you get what I'm saying? When you say that, people are going to be like, oh, Luna wants exactly this to happen in the USA. It's very fucking annoying. But
weird. When I say, like, okay, this happened in Vietnam, it happened like this. And it happened this way. They just straight up think that, like, I want to force you to do exactly what Vietnam did. Like, what? Really?
That's how they're going to think about it. That's the kind of, like, linear, metaphysical way that we're conditioned to think in the USA. And so it's like, I don't know.
It's just like, even like, as I said, like when they anti-decolonization, they are literally protecting the right for Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, and Bill Gates to own as many lands as possible. I cannot get it.
They're afraid. It's a lot of fear. And it's like...
They fear... They have a lot of fears of losing the things that they don't even have.
There's also the fear of.
By the way, your latest video about fear was.
Thanks.
Everybody, please go watch that video. It's really good.
Speaking of videos that everyone should watch, have you shown the BP video yet?
Yeah. Should do that.
So our comrade BP, who does the dialectic with us every week, which Luna often participates in over at Non-Compete Live, does really awesome hip hop, and just put out a Halloween music video. But it's not really just like exclusively Halloween. It's a good track for any time of the year. Anyway, it's not getting a lot of views. It's only got 130 views, and I think that's like criminal. So we're gonna hype it a little bit here for you. I'm gonna drop the link in the chat. We won't play the whole music video, and the reason why is because we want you to go watch it yourself and add some views. But hold on. So here's the link I'm dropping in the chat, and we'll just play a little bit of it, a little sampling. But yeah, BP is super rad. Everyone should check out.
Do we have a turn on this or no?
No, we're sharing through screen.
Okay, good.
StreamYard. StreamYard is finally, by the way, getting you don't care about this, but they're finally getting keyboard shortcuts, which means we'll be able to automate a lot of crap that we couldn't do before. Okay.
You're gonna do it.
I'm gonna do it for sure. All right, I guess we'll play like the first 30, 35 seconds, whatever, however long it feels. But yeah, so BP is really great and gets me thinking about things a lot, and just BP has like very interesting ideas, let's put it that way. And I love talking to BP every week because we don't always agree. That's part of why we have the show The Dialectic. I mean, because we like to work things out, but like just seeing the world through BP's eyes is very interesting, and I think that BP's music is an extension of that. So check out this song. Here comes this song.
Riddle of Souls. Ghost.
BP directed the video too, by the way.
I love PP's music.
If souls, those spaces full. So it's time I'm ghosted. Get ghosted. Get ghosted. Emphatic to the stated goals. You cool, I just ghosted. Get ghosted. Get ghosted. Shifting sands like Chronos, holding morbid golden. I see ghosts. Just ghosts. Tipping hands of man molding.
At least to that hook. Okay, so yeah, if you want to hear the rest of it, you gotta go
really good.
Click the link and bump up some views. And please,
really want to watch the rest of it now.
Yeah, I know, that's the point. And share it around too. If you know anybody that's into hip hop,
can we put this on our music list?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the cool thing, like having communists and anarchists that are making art and music. That's really cool.
From the top of my head, I can tell the music composers such as like BP, and then we have like Harvey. My gosh, I love his music. Minor 36, awesome.
Yeah, Mintner 36. Oh.
And also like even like Doctor like Ramun.
Tammy Ramen. Yeah, has an amazing.
The whole like band.
Yeah, there's so many talented folks out there. So share it around. It's like we're not gonna get a lot of love from these algorithms with our politics. BP also had a really funny and interesting Halloween special too. You can watch on the same channel. So anyway, yeah, check that out. I'm just reading the comments now about our discussion. Going back into the discussion.
Somebody said like they like my video about the tunnels, the Gucci tunnels. This is our fighting spirit.
Oh, the video games caught me. Yeah, I was heavily influenced by BP in my most recent Fear video, that's for sure. Which is one of the reasons why I featured BP into that one. Yeah. I didn't really even realize it until after I watched it, after it was already finished, and I was like, oh, wow. You know what I mean? Because that's what's interesting about dialectical development, is that like you don't even realize when you're going through it sometimes.
You don't even know it.
Although the more we learn about it, hopefully the more conscious we'll become of it. But yeah, it's interesting stuff. I'm not new to hip hop, but I'm just not well versed in it. And I also here's my thing. I'm a boomer. I don't listen to a lot of new music, period. So like anything I would recommend has been out for like 20 years. You can do rap in Vietnamese?
Thu đến và đi như những gì đã sắp đặt, trang giấy trắng đâu thể mở đi từng màu buồn của nắng. À ơi vu vơ câu hát có lẽ chưa bao giờ anh viết tặng em, nhẹ bước chân đi ngọt ngào bao nhiêu cố gắng. That's my Vietnamese rap.
But can you freestyle? That's the question.
That's hard.
Is there any Vietnamese hip hop artists you recommend?
Of course.
Name 3.
Dan Vâu, Beans.
Beans?
His name is B-I-N-Z.
Beans.
Beans.
Okay. Beans. Why not?
And then Wowie.
Wowie?
His name is Wowie.
How do you spell that?
W-O-W-Y.
Wowie. Wowie. I like that name.
I really like Beans. He's very talented.
I like beans too.
Danvo, I like Danvo a lot.
The musical fruit. Hold on. I saw a comment earlier and I'm trying to find it now. Luna EJ rap battle. Oh,
Oh no, you
that's
don't.
gonna be a cringe festival. We had one already. Class time. Go watch Class Time on YouTube.
Sam, it's class time. You need to do a second episode. It's really fun to make and really pain in the ass to make too.
I definitely saw a comment that I wanted to read and I definitely can't find it now. Oh, here we go. It's from Dustin. We are instructed all our lives to be afraid. Look at the war on terror. Yeah. No. Okay. I got a comment, and if you're the one that left this comment, don't take this as an insult or whatever. But I got this comment on that video about fear, and they were like, I'm paraphrasing, but they were like, no, this is a dead end. You can't. They basically said that they accused me of taking systemic issues of like in-group versus out-group systems and stuff and trying to say that it's like based on individual psychology. And I feel like maybe I miscommunicated or something because like, first of all, I don't think fear is limited to individual psychology. Like obviously when you talk about phobias and stuff, that's individual fear, right? But I think that fear can have a mass character.
Absolutely.
Is what I'm trying to say. And so like you can have systemic fear and I think that fear can be weaponized by demagogues.
Xenophobia.
Right.
That's a systemic fear that like intentionally ran by the United States of America.
Yeah. It's socialized into us.
Yes.
So I think that and I didn't make that distinction in my video, so maybe that's where I failed. But like, yeah, I draw a distinction between like individual fear, because like a lot of racists, there are like I've met racists for sure. Like I have a few in my family who, for them, it's literally like an individual phobia, where like they just have something fucking wrong with them as an individual. Do you know what I mean? Like there's that kind of prejudice and racism and homophobia and all that. And that does exist, right? And I think and it's also important to realize in any society that can exist, right? So like there are Vietnamese people who are xenophobic in Vietnam. It's just much, much less prevalent because it tends to be, it's not so systemic, so it tends to be more of an individual problem, right? Am I saying that accurately?
True.
But in the USA, it's like flipped. It's like you do have individualized prejudice, but I think what's much more common is the systemic prejudice, which is based on a systemic fear, which is socialized into us. Does that make sense? Am I making any sense? I'm kind of just
It's just like
riffing here, but
the State Department, they literally socialize and try to provoke a social fear to gain their purposes.
right.
So just the easiest example, the most obvious example is xenophobia. Just there is individuals in xenophobia, all right? But the thing is that like the State Department over there, they use that and provoke it into the thing, like promote it into a higher level that like encourage you to be xenophobic.
Right.
And try to strengthen that fear so it can serve their political purposes. It's to demonize China, aka demonize communism, and to make people hate us more.
Right. Exactly. So yeah. So exactly. So like, yeah. I mean, how could you say that fear can't have like a mass character? It's interesting to me. Like, to me, it seems obvious.
Absolutely obvious.
Like that you can make a group of people afraid of something or someone or some phenomena. And sometimes it's good. Like I said in the video, like sometimes it's not a bad thing. Like for instance, right now everyone should be afraid of COVID.
Yeah.
And like, if you're not afraid of COVID because you've been like, because you can also have secure, like I said in the video, the feeling of security can be false consciousness too. If you're an anti-vaxxer and you're like, oh, COVID's a big hoax.
Having the trust in police is a fucking false consciousness.
Exactly.
You think the police can protect you?
It's like somebody asked, I forgot. Oh my God, this was so long ago. But somebody was like, what are you going to, it was like, I think it was a Twitter thread a long time ago, like back in 2020. But it was like, somebody was like, what would we do without the police? Like, what would you do if if
Yeah.
somebody breaks into your house.
Yeah,
And then the
what
reply,
do you do without the police or without reasons?
right. When somebody asks, like, what would you do if there are no police and someone breaks in your house? And the reply was, well, I guess nobody would show up and shoot your dog. Because, like, that's all the cops generally do in those situations. But it's like, yeah, it's a false sense of security. And if you're an anti-vaxxer and you think that COVID's a hoax, that's false consciousness as security. You know what I mean? So it can work in it.
So like they feel secure when they don't take the vaccines, and that's false.
And not only is it false, but it can develop into having a mass character.
Mm.
When you have enough
QAnon.
people spreading that around.
QAnon came from a bunch of fear.
Yeah. Well, QAnon, I would say, is a vehicle for injecting fear into the masses. You know?
Injecting fear. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like I get the point though. The point that we should not try to we should not conflate systemic problems with like individual psychology. I get that point. Point taken. And we don't want to, because that's what liberals do, and because liberals see every systemic problem as just like a collection of individual problems, which is idealism. And it's like if we all just have the best ideas. My therapist, don't worry about Mario Luna. Mario Luna's not real. She can't hurt you.
This head is huge.
Mario Luna. But anyway.
Anyway, fear.
I forgot what I was saying. Oh, no, because liberals do that. They're like, okay, when liberals look at racism, I get the point, because there's the liberal conception of racism, which is that like racism is just a bunch of individuals who are individually racist, and the way to solve it is for us to individually address every individual and convince them to stop being racist.
Liberals.
Right? So that's
always
like
liberals.
that's like a failure to see the systemic
Racism
character.
is a systemic problem.
It is, but there's still a systemic fear that's like underlying it. I think.
Exactly. Absolutely. They are racist individuals. Absolutely. But when you're talking about racism, talking about the systemic level here.
And I think that the systemic solution to systemic fear or systemic security, systemic false consciousness, is creating, again, counter hegemony.
Yep.
We have to create our own civil society counter hegemony and propagate the real consciousness through various means. It's not just education. It's also through action. I mean, it's going to be primarily through action, really. You know, education's important for like internal within our movement, but then we have to use action to build the counterculture and the whatever you want to call it, true consciousness through activity. So whatever that might look like, it's going to depend. But like for one thing, like with transphobia, I think it's just like I think one thing that helps a lot with that is just having more visible trans people standing up for themselves. A big part of this stuff, by the way, I've learned from just looking at the psychological and sociological research that I've done, is not tolerating bigotry in our society.
Yeah.
Because it's been proven time and time and time again.
Don't tolerate the intolerance.
Yeah. There's just, I mean, just look at the fucking research. Look at the studies. It's just been shown that in societies where prejudice and bigotry is tolerated, it escalates up to and including violence and even genocide. By the way, we were talking about, I got a comment from somebody who was like, because I talked about the PewDiePipeline video, you know? I got a comment on the PewDiePipeline video, and it was like, they were talking about disability and ableism. And how like, they basically pointed out that ableism is a perfect example of because one of the, most of you probably haven't seen this video. So I made a video a long time ago called the PewDiePipeline, where it talks about the ways that prejudice in society, if tolerated, leads to progressively more and more bigoted prejudiced behavior, which will lead to violence and then eventually to genocide. And a lot of people were like, because they have this thing called the pyramid of violence, and the base of it is like, you know, microaggressions and like just having kind of shitty attitudes and little shitty jokes and stuff. And then that leads to like,
jokes.
Yeah, edgy jokes. And that leads to like overt prejudicial language. And then that leads to like low-key violence. And then that leads to like more systemic violence. And then that will eventually lead to genocide. And then somebody was like, oh, so you're saying that somebody making edgy jokes is going to lead to genocide? That sounds like a slippery slope. And it's like, ableism is the perfect example of how it's not a slippery slope, because I would say that to this day, disabled people are victims of like invisible genocides that because ableism has so normalized in our society and prejudice against the disabled is so normalized that we don't even realize that there are all these genocides going on
Yeah.
against disabled people.
There are so many words that I don't even know that is ableist
Yeah.
before that.
Right.
And thankful that lots of our comrades in the chat,
Mm-hmm.
like gently, like very
Right.
constructively, like told me about that, and I never use those words
But
anymore.
when they do that, they're basically building counterculture,
yeah,
and they're through praxis,
yeah,
they're pushing back against the hegemony, in this case, the ableist hegemony. So it's kind of it's fascinating. Wow, there is a big. I accidentally sparked some massive discussion
oops,
about Israel in the comments. Sorry.
oops.
Science is. I'm not. I don't. What do you?
What?
What? I
About
don't
what?
get this one. Science is saying it, not EJ. I think I missed. I'm missing that. Science is saying what's not. Oh! I get it. They're saying science is saying it, not EJ. I get it.
That's
So it's like,
comma.
I'm not the
That's
one saying-
comma there.
Right. No, we're not correcting grammar. Now I get it.
Just
Okay.
saying.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's true. I'm not making this shit up.
Yeah.
You know.
The thing is that I said it so many times before. No, like when, like, you know, a few years ago, 2018, 2019, there was a chant that leftists should go out of the right winger and fascist space and try to appeal to those
The fascists.
people. Yep,
Look how
try to
that's
like
turned out.
de-radicalize fascists. And look at it now. I was opposed from day one, and now I became the victim. I had to bear like racist attack from actual Marxist Leninists.
Our
We
predictions our predictions have come true.
And we are bearing like, you know what? The white genocide used to be the fascist and right-winger talking point. And now literally leftists, even leftist content creators are like talking about this.
Yeah.
You using it against indigenous people. Like, what the fuck? So what the fuck did we bring to our space right now?
Yeah. And by the way, when I say we, I don't just mean me and Luna, but like hundreds of us were talking about this in like 2017, 2018.
Yeah.
So it's yeah. Oh, and by the way, this is hold on. Grammar tankies. Jokes lead from violence, not to it. I would just say
It's called grammar police in Vietnam, by the way.
grammar police, I see. We usually say grammar Nazis. So anyway, okay. No, I mean, okay. I'm talking about something very specific, which is like the sociological. So any given space, like this takes place. This can take place in like a very isolated, like localized location, like in an office. If you have an office where sexist jokes are tolerated, right? Then over time, you know, the sexist joke will lead to like sexual harassment, and if that's tolerated, the sexual harassment will lead to like sexual assault. So this is something that they've proven like again and again and again. But if you stop the sexist language immediately, if you don't tolerate it, if you shut it down immediately, then it's much less likely to lead to sexual harassment, and then of course it's much less likely to lead to sexual assault. Now that's not to say that it can't occur, because there's like the wider society.
The thing is that lots of people think that it's like in an individual level only. It's like they think like when you said that means like a single this individual from like having like edgy jokes into like assaulting people, but like we are talking about a collective here.
Yeah, and I think
like group of people, you know.
Yeah, well, another great example would be like Islamophobia, right? Which is like Islamophobia has been in American society for like as long as there's been American society, I'm sure. But like we saw it kind of like escalate. Yeah. Or no, a better example is most recently with the Asian hate shit.
Asian hate, yes.
So it's like Asian, of course, there's always been violence against Asian people and stuff, right? But I think what happened, it happened really fast. We saw all this anti-Asian rhetoric, and we were talking about this in like 2019 with like when Joe Biden was spreading it in his campaign.
Yes.
So like it happened really fast, and like nobody was really stopping that language.
nobody challenged
it
it.
just got out of control. And then I think the language escalated. Like, it doesn't mean that the violence, it's, again, dialectical. It's dialectical, okay? That's one thing we gotta understand. It's not like language only leads to violence or violence only leads to language. It's like the more violence there is, the more language there is, and the more language there is, the more violence is going to be. But the point is that what the studies that I've read show is that if in a space, if any kind of, what are you going to call it, a space in an environment, if the people in that environment are not tolerant of it at the base level of the language level, it's much less likely to lead to violence. And the reason is because of the social dynamics. Like, if you're in a school or a workplace or a city where anytime you make a sexist joke, someone says, hey, that's not fucking cool, it's less likely to, on the individual level, I guess, like, that person
To me, that
is
thing
less
is
likely to advance.
really obvious.
Yeah.
Because I myself, I don't want to work in the environment that people feel fine having sexist jokes.
Right.
Because I feel dangerous. Talking about myself, I feel dangerous, and I feel that there's going to be a very potential for sexual harassment and sexual assault to me in the future because they talk like that and they think that's okay.
Yeah.
And that is my personal, because even me, I know deep inside my heart that there's going to be higher chance for me to be attacked
Right.
in the space like that.
Exactly. Now another problem though is like with the Christchurch shooter, for instance. This is another problem that I think I've only seen like some base level studies on this. I don't think they've really investigated much. But the internet creates this new dynamic that's a problem because there's no because there's no isolated space. All these spaces influence each other, right? But the internet creates this space where you have a space where things can be tolerated. So like maybe you go to school and they don't tolerate racist language, and then you go to work and they don't tolerate racist language, and you go to your local bar and they don't tolerate racist language. But all along the way, you're spending so much time online where it's totally tolerated, right? So that will spill over into the real world, obviously. So like if you're spending all your time on 4chan and you're just making racist jokes all the time, and then you have people like spreading around
4chan.
racist videos and blah, 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 that online activity can eventually lead you to doing some heinous shit in the real world. So like, I don't want to oversimplify it. My point is just my point is really just that the only point of the video and the point I'm trying to make right now is just that we as leftists should not tolerate prejudicial language or behavior in our spaces.
Yeah.
Specifically.
Language shaping thought, shaping language.
Exactly. That's dialectics. It's like the hand shapes the hammer and the hammer shapes the hand.
Yes.
You know, like the human hand evolved to use the tools that we were making. So like over time, it's just fascinating stuff. So, language and the brain evolved together. You know, the brain evolved so we could have more language capacity.
Language
And language
is
evolved.
the mode of existence of consciousness. Even when you think in language. It's like intertwined with each other. You cannot, even our subconsciousness has its own language.
Right. And now people think that because we talked about that in our ideology video, people are like, and this is true. Some autistic people and some other neurodivergent people actually think visually, right? But they're still thinking, even if you're thinking visually, you're thinking in language in the sense that there's grammatical structure with like subjects, verbs, objects, etc. Right? Like there's no way for us to conceive of language that doesn't have a grammatical structure of some kind. Even if it's a visual language or visual thinking, it's still structured like a language. Like that's the whole thing about Lacan, is that like the unconscious is structured like a language.
So the thing is that like because this is very funny thing. Because I just saw this from Mammoth Vietnamese. It's like if you make like ableist jokes about like disabled people, it is also a form of abuse. And abuse not always just like the violence, the actual violence. Like language can be very abusive.
Of course.
And the thing happened is that like this is a story that I will never forget. In when I was like 12 years old in the class in middle school. So at that time, like the girls, we start like wearing like bras, and then there was a team of like 3 or 4 boys in the class. like making fun of that, like very sexist. It's disgusting. But like because the whole class, because they were also a small gang in the class of abusers. They were kind of scary, and they've been making that jokes for like weeks about us like wearing like bra something like that. I felt really horrible for weeks, and I've been thinking about like should I stand up and talk about this? And then like finally one day when because like and that joke I can see that joke's like spreading and spreading from like one small group into like the whole class like that. And I was like I felt really bad. And then one day when that the student in my class making fun of the girl wearing bra in the class, I was really mad and I was like fuck's sake, I can't be. So I stood up and I pointed at that boy's face and they're like, you better stop this. There's nothing wrong with wearing bra and that you shut the fuck up. And so it's like, and then even though that boy's like the leader of that gang in the class, he just looked at me like surprised. He's surprised and he left the room. And from then on, there's no like jokes about bras anymore until I graduated. So I did it.
If only it were always that easy. But no, I mean, like, if you think about it too, like, when I was a kid, there were some teachers, like when I was in middle school especially, there were some teachers that, like, would not do shit about bullying. And, like, I hated to go to those classes. It's like, even on an individual classroom level, like, the dynamics can be so heavily shaped by, like, because, like, there'd be, most teachers, if they see somebody, like, you know, because I had, like, long hair and I was kind of, like, you know, nerdy, kind of effeminate, you know. So there were some kids that would like, anytime they could get away with teasing me, they would.
Yeah.
Oh, a great example is like bus drivers. Oh my God, I just realized. So like, you know, every so often you get like a new bus driver or we go on field trips with certain bus drivers or whatever. And there were some bus drivers who just didn't give a shit what happened behind them. But then like some bus drivers would like stop bullying if they saw it. And so like, I remember there were like two bus ride drivers that would do my route, one in the morning, one in the evening when I was in middle school. And like, I remember the one in the morning was really like cool. And if anybody was picking on anybody else, he would stand up and like yell at them. But then the one in the afternoon just like didn't give a shit. And so it was just like, it was like every day I was just like terrified to get on the bus in the afternoon because I was like, oh my God. Because the environment was like set up so
Toxic.
that, you know, so anyway.
If you tolerate the toxic, you're gonna be toxic.
Yeah. Right. And it's again a dialectical thing, so it'll continue to develop as long as material conditions allow it.
But so, I mean, it's awesome. And the thing is that like, talking back to the bra story, they never talk back to me. I never got any like you know revenge from them. It's just like that. The whole story and it was like. Oh, so
Well, yeah, because no, it reminds me when I was in college.
So they were not that scary.
Right, when I was in college, I would make like, I just got accustomed because all through high school I made like sexist jokes all the time, and nobody ever really. Come on, I've talked about this many times.
Yeah,
so, and nobody ever really pushed back ever, you know. And then when I got to college, I was around women that were like, feminists, and I just quickly realized that because they would shut it down if I made a sexist joke. They would just shut it down. They'd be like, that's not funny. You're being an asshole. And it's, after like the second or third, it didn't take long. It was like the second or third time that happened. I was like, all right, I'm not going to make those jokes anymore because it feels like shit when I do it. So
the thing that I want to encourage you is that like, if you see any intolerance around your environment, I really encourage you to, if you can, speak up because many times, most of the time, it turns out that they are not that scary. They're not as scary as they act or they show you. And you're doing the right thing. And yeah, if you totally feel not safe to do that, you feel like you would be like revenge or something like that. So yeah, don't do that. But like if you think you can.
Well, that's why again. That's okay. It's bullies are, you can think of bullying as like abuse, right? So like abusers like shelter each other, right? But like so it's all about solidarity. It's all about solidarity. Bullies will have solidarity with each other. and protect each other. And it's like when you were in that class, those boys, they were like reinforcing each other, right? But like, it's why we shouldn't invite bigots just like into leftist spaces and be like, okay, you could be a white supremacist and you could be sexist and transphobic, but as long as you're
remember to read
anti-capitalist,
Marx
yeah,
and
just read Marx.
Lenin.
And you let those people into your space, and then suddenly you've got a bunch of them, and then as we're seeing now, they reinforce each other, and they form gangs. That's what they do.
They form a little gang.
And it's like they realize that they're stronger when they're together, and they can reinforce each other and back each other up. So that's why we have to back each other up and defend each other from that kind of abuse and those kinds of like toxic mindsets and that sort of thing. So, why does Vietnam have corporate media? Weren't they supposed to be socialist? Well, hold on. You already talked about all that, right?
Yeah.
Go back to the beginning and watch the beginning of the stream. I don't know. Do you want to handle that one or do you want to move on? I have to work on something too, so.
Yeah, I need to
I'm
grab
not-
some lunch actually.
But okay, if you want to know about what Luna was talking about in the title, go back and watch the beginning of the stream. All right.
I'll show
well,
you. That's gonna be very funny.
thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you watch BP's video. I'll share the link.
Oh,
over time.
make sure. Yeah, it's really good. I want to listen to it now.
And make sure that you support Luna on Camaraderie or Patreon.
Oh
and...
yes, please.
Wait, another announcement. No, tomorrow night on The Dialectic on youtube.com/noncompetelive. I think that's it.
What else?
And we raised like $700 for
We raised
International
$700
Anti-Fascist
in
Defense
the-
Fund. So thanks to everybody who donated during the International Anti-Fascist Defense Fund
Yes.
stream.
And
Bye.
yeah, bye. And please support not me, but like other content creators too, like camaraderie.co too, because that's a new launch platform that alternative to Patreon, and it's solely workers owned, content creators owned, and the link is right in the description. You can check it out, and you also can like encourage other content creators and one that you love watching too. Like encourage them to check out camaraderie.co as a way to support us. The fee is way lower than Patreon, and it's all of your pennies will be spent on the actual workers and the content creators, not to any like corporations or companies or something like that. So really, I can encourage you to support that. And that's another way to support me is that like there's a new YouTube membership, the YouTube membership button right next to the subscribing button. So if you want to check that out, please, you would have a special like what do you call it? Special name tag, and also like emojis, fun emojis, stuff like that. It's also like special videos that for members only. Okay, thank you so much. See you next time. Bye bye, everybody. I'm gonna have some lunch right now. Bye bye. As I said, my last message to you is that maybe if you see any kind of toxic like that, and if you think you can speak up, I really encourage you to speak up. Just be nice, be kind about it, and if that's your friends, just tell them in private, like, hey, you should not do that. It's like, you don't need to be like angry or threaten with anything, just like speak up against it and saying like, hey, you should not do that, and that's not good, it's toxic, like that. So, and if you feel totally not safe to do that, it's okay. It's fine. It's just like I'm not forcing you to do anything that you feel uncomfortable with. Just like try to do whatever you can. Okay? All right? Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Or maybe you can just like another sweet thing to do is like just talk to the victims privately. Like try to talk to them like that you're on their side. If you're afraid to speak up to the abusers, that's fine. Talk to the victims and try to to make friends and try to get over with it, so that's it. Just do whatever you can and just be nice, be kind, be sweet, and be awesome and hip. Bye bye, everybody.